The content in this video is for general educational use. It does not represent political opinions or judgments about any country, culture, or government. Information is based on publicly available sources and may be summarized or simplified. Viewers should verify details through multiple sources.
We're about to take a journey into a haunted landscape, a place in Ukraine that's been defined by a truly modern technological catastrophe. But what's fascinating is how the fear it created, well, it echoes something much, much older, a kind of terror that's been woven into the folklore of this land for centuries. And our story really begins right here, in the Chernobyl exclusion zone. This is Pripyat, a city that was basically frozen in time back in 1986. And this Ferris wheel, it was all set to open just days after the disaster, but it never did. Instead, it just stands there, a silent monument to an invisible poison that emptied an entire city and completely reshaped the world around it. You know, the conflict at the very heart of the Chernobyl story? It starts with the numbers. The official UN count claims only 54 people died as a direct result. But then you look at Ukrainian records, and they suggest a staggering 35,000 deaths. And that's just among the cleanup crews, the so-called liquidators. This huge gap gets right to our central theme, the danger of hidden truths and threats you literally cannot see. So to understand a threat like this, you have to find a way to make the invisible visible. And that's exactly what these students are doing on a field trip. They're measuring the radiation in a simple patch of moss. Think about that. Decades after the accident, that moss is still dangerously radioactive. The threat never really left. It just soaked into the ground, a quiet, persistent poison. And when you see that reality for yourself, it really changes you. As one visitor, Kathleen Saul, said, the whole thing becomes more than just an intellectual exercise. It hits you on a deep, emotional level. You go from hearing about statistics to feeling the stark reality of it all. But here's the thing. This fear, this idea of a powerful, unseen force that kills without a sound, it's not new to this land. Not at all. In fact, it's a huge part of its ancient mythology. So, I want you to meet V. V is this monstrous, incredibly powerful being from Slavic folklore, and his most important feature, it's his eyelids. Yeah, his eyelids. They're so heavy they literally hang all the way to the ground because his power is so immense, so deadly, it has to be physically hidden from the world. Kind of like radiation, right? The real danger lies in what you can't easily see. And to unleash Vili's power, well, it was this terrifying ritual. Servants had to use these massive pitchforks, sometimes they're described as iron, sometimes gold, just to lift his eyelids. And whatever his gaze landed on was completely destroyed. Cities turned to dust, armies were wiped out, and people just fell down dead. A gaze that kills invisibly. And there it is. That's the connection, isn't it? Whether you're talking about the microscopic decay of a cesium atom or the mythological gaze of a monster, the principle is exactly the same. Some forces are just too terrible to be witnessed directly. And Vicky wasn't some lone operator. Oh, no. The ancient Slavic world was just teeming with unseen powers. You have to imagine it. You've got Perun, the god of thunder, cracking the sky. Veles, ruling the mysterious underworld. Mokosh, the great earth mother herself. Every forest had its lord. Every home had a guardian. The land itself was alive with these powerful, invisible spirits that really governed everything. Now check out this parallel because it is wild. On one side, you have a modern map showing how invisible radioactive particles poison the landscape. And on the other, you've got the ancient myth of Chernobyl, the black god, whose spit was said to have formed mountains. Two powerful, unseen forces, thousands of years apart, both completely reshaping the very earth of Ukraine. So this brings up a really fundamental question. If your world is governed by these forces you can't see but whose effects are absolutely devastatingly real, what do? I mean, how do you even begin to protect yourself? Well, the answer was ritual. During the big midsummer festival of Ivana Kupala, people would gather special herbs, weave wreaths, and then leap over these massive bonfires. It was a physical act of purification. They were using a tangible, visible force, fire, to fight back against the intangible, invisible ones. And, in a way, we do the same thing today. This monument to the victims of Chernobyl, it's more than just a statue. It's become a modern ritual site. It's a place for people to gather, to remember, and to try to make some sense of a technological catastrophe that, just like the monsters of old, is really hard to comprehend. So when you see these students passing through that checkpoint, they're crossing more than just a border on a map. They are entering a place that forces us, all of us, to confront the consequences of the awesome and sometimes terrifying powers that we ourselves have created. And this really brings us to the core lesson here. The researchers who led these trips, they came to a powerful conclusion. They said it's just as important for us to study the built environment, our power plants, our cities, as it is to study the natural world. Why? Because the consequences of what we build are so profound, and we have to be willing to look at them, even when it's really, really uncomfortable. So, we're left with this question. Chernobyl's radiation was an invisible monster of its time. Vizzy's deadly gaze was a monster from a time long before. So, what are the invisible forces shaping our world right now? What are the technological, the environmental, the informational monsters of our age? And what's it going to take for us to finally lift our eyelids and truly see them?